Okay, question 8. This one's 2 questions. Now, I had gotten a lot of these in all the questions that I got related to this same topic. So I'm going to go ahead and read both of these. And there was also several others that were sort of in this sort of genre. So the first question was, I understand and like your idea to do something different in our art. You showed some of the artists you carry in your gallery. Example was the large yarn hanging. My question is, will art like this sell for people's homes? They seem like art for public spaces or museum art. And then the other question was, I was disappointed at your last presentation about how to get into galleries. All of your examples were nice, but not anything that would go in an average home or office. It made it seem that an artist that does not do edgy art does not have a chance. What do normal, quote unquote, artists do? Give up? Please do not tell us that we have to modify our works just to get into a gallery. I would never tell anybody to modify their work or do something that wasn't authentic just to get into a gallery. I think the presentation that both of these people were talking about was my presentation about how to make your art stand out. So let's talk about this, because, it must be that I wasn't clear enough in my presentation, because I had a lot of these questions in the same sort of genre, in the same sort of realm that I think is important to talk about. So creating work that is gimmicky for the sake of standing out is not sustainable, because it's inherently not authentic. And I would definitely never recommend that. I would only recommend doing art that is authentic to each individual artist. My point of the workshop that I did about standing out was to give ideas on things that might spark interest, that might have a little spark in there, or feel like something that people want to explore. Because the main thing that I think people need to do as artists is to really push themselves. I think that's critical for artists to grow as artists, to grow their work, to challenge themselves, to look at things outside of the box, to look at things in different ways. And that was the purpose of my workshop for, creating work that stands out. And I feel badly that people left with the impression that I was telling people to create gimmicky art that wasn't authentic, just to get into a gallery, because it's kind of impossible to do that. Creating something that's gimmicky or shocking, for a short-term gain, possibly, that sort of inauthentic approach is totally not sustainable. Like, how would an artist sustain that? They couldn't. So one of the best things about art that I really believe, and one of the reasons why I love it so much, why I totally love art, is that there's no rules at all. So artists can create any and all kinds of art. And art that one viewer might feel is edgy, another viewer might not think is edgy. Another viewer might think it's derivative. Another viewer might think it's shocking. So that's why it's really important as artists to not only challenge yourself, but most importantly, work authentically, work in ways that feel right. Work in ways that resonate with you. And, presenting all those different ideas wasn't saying, oh, you should make things like this. It was to just sort of get the creative juices flowing. And if anything sort of sparked an interest or resonated with you, then that might be something you want to explore, possibly. So the truth is, however, whether we like it or not, artists who want to get gallery representation, which is a big commitment on the gallery's part and the artist's part, they really, do need to create work that in one way or another stands apart. Okay. Work that stands apart and, is strong. That's a word that I would use. Strong work does stand apart. There's so many ways that work can be strong. and stand apart. It can be through impeccable craftsmanship. It can be through concept, like my artist Kate Kretz, who does really political art, and much more conceptual. It can be through a statement that you're trying to make. It could be a fresh viewpoint or a fresh take on an old technique. There's so many ways. It's not just about employing some gimmicky trick. That's not what it's about. That's not what makes strong art, and it certainly isn't authentic or sustainable. Will edgy art sell? Like one of the questions was, I don't see how this stuff would sell. Yes, all kinds of art sells because there's all kinds of buyers. I have sold work that I never thought I would sell. And in my opinion, and I've also seen at art fairs work that was, in my opinion, absolutely hideous and, walked out the door. So, it's really hard to judge what other people will like. And it's important to understand that there's a whole myriad of viewers and buyers out there. And everybody has their own taste when it comes to art. So it's really difficult to say that, one art is better or, that will never sell. There definitely is some work that is definitely more visually challenging. That's for certain. That work will be harder to sell in the beginning of an artist's career until they've established a reputation. It will be harder to sell in the sort of the mass market than, say, a painting that's really easy to live with. It's like a landscape and someone had been to that place where the landscape, and that was their connection to it. And in my experience, there's buyers and there's collectors. One isn't better than the other, but they're different. Art collectors buy for more than just a connection to the work. They buy for financial gain, investment. They buy for a myriad of reasons. Lots of times collectors collect certain kinds of work, political work, for instance. I spoke to a collector in the South, actually, who collected a lot of contemporary, really difficult to live with art. As a matter of fact, he sent me a picture of a KKK costume that an artist had made that he had in his library. And, yes, that work is a little bit more difficult to sell. But there are buyers for all sorts of work. So the key here being, again, we're going to come back to, authenticity of what you're making. If you're an artist who, makes work that's, easier to live with, as I call it, more accessible visually, great. It might be easier to sell. You have the ability of working with interior designers more than artists who, let's say, like Kate Kretz, who does very political work that's very challenging and could be perceived as difficult to live with. So, but there's collectors for everything. But the idea is you make what you want to make. You make what's authentic to you. You don't make what's gimmicky. No gallerist wants that. So don't worry about what other people are doing. Worry about how you're going to make the best work that you can possibly make. So that's all. I hope that helps. Clears that up a little bit.